My name is Juanita Kurtin. My company is Pacific Light Technologies, and I'm the CTO and Cofounder.
So tell me about Pacific Light's business. What do you do?
So we make quantum dot materials for solid state lighting. We make a material that replaces the phosphor in white LED lights, and it makes them more efficient and have a better color quality.
So for those in our audience that don't understand the basics of lighting technology, can you explain what a phosphor is?
Yeah, so a phosphor is a material that absorbs blue light and converts it to another color. And a quantum dot does the same thing. It absorbs blue light and converts it to another color. A phosphor is a little bit different in that you can't really control the color that's output by changing the phosphor and getting a slightly different color or a slightly different shape to the output. Whereas with a quantum dot you can. But fundamentally they're both doing the same thing. They're absorbing blue light, which is what you get out of a blue LED, and they're converting it to another wavelength. And the combination of the blue and the converted wavelengths gives you a white. Your eye recognizes that as white.
Tell us about your career path and how that led to where you're at today.
So I went to MIT as an undergrad, which is actually a really good preparation to be in a startup because it's a lot of work and a lot of information at once. I have a PhD in physical chemistry from Berkeley, and then I went from Berkeley to Intel, worked at Intel for about 6 years, and then used my experience in nanomaterials to, inside of Intel, form a company that then spun out of Intel to become a solar company called SpectraWatt. SpectraWatt was also looking at nanomaterials to improve the efficiency of their devices, but the solar market sort of crashed right when we started that company, and it was a really bad time to raise the amount of capital that you need to raise for a solar company. So after SpectraWatt wasn't able to raise its second round of funding, a handful of us at SpectraWatt, myself and another one of the VPs there, bought the intellectual property and founded Pacific Light to use the nanomaterials that we were working with there, modify them a little bit for solid state lighting and sell them as a phosphor replacement for solid state lighting.
How did you decide to become an entrepreneur, and how did you build the initial team for Pacific Light?
It was almost by accident that I became an entrepreneur because I was at Intel inside of a large company and just trying to find the best path for myself inside of a large company. And when I was inside of Intel, I found their new business initiatives group, which was kind of a wing of their venture arm. And that was where I kind of figured out that I like to do new businesses and start things within that context. And then when it became clear that we could take the small business that we formed inside of Intel and spin it out, I just thought it would be an interesting thing to try, really. It wasn't like I was always planning to do something like that. But then once I got into SpectraWatt and started building that company, that's when I realized that, that was way more fun than a big company. And so, throughout the process of learning how to do what we were doing at SpectraWatt, that's when I realized that that was kind of my career path, would be to go with small companies, try to build something from the ground up and make a new product out of essentially nothing, just some ideas around a table.
What advice do you have for budding entrepreneurs?
What advice do I have for budding entrepreneurs? I thought about this one, so I think my advice, there's a ton of advice, right? But like one very important piece of advice is to be very careful about the team that you choose. So the team that forms the company, it has to be a set of people that you are very, very comfortable with. It's analogous to getting married to somebody. You are so dependent on them going forward, and if you ever, you're entirely dependent on those people to get everything done. And I think the people in the company are the most important component of the company. They're more important than the technology. I think they're more important than even the business model. If you can count on the people and the people believe in the idea, I think you're much more likely to be successful. If you have the wrong people, that can really hurt the company. So I think in the end, it's choose the right people to start the company with, or as you go along, if you don't have the right people, find those people. And if the people you have today aren't fitting in their roles, you need to find a different role for them, because it's all about having the right people in the right role.